Welcome to City Council District 5. It's great to have you all here today. We have both the candidates with us. In today's forum, this is a candidate forum to hear the ideas and thoughts of the candidates that are wanting to be city councilors for District 5 for the next 4 years. That being said, we have 10 questions today. We have an opening and we have a closing, and then the 10 questions will be in an alternating format thereafter. So that being said, we want to make sure that any questions that you may answer, you have that 1 minute. We are watching that very closely, and you do have a timer in front of you. Keep in mind, this is also a candidate forum and not a debate. This is for the voters to learn who you are, what you're about, and why you decided to be a city councilor for the next 4 years. So with that, Carissa, we'll start off with you. If you'll start with your opening.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this wonderful event in your wonderful new space. I want to start this opening by telling everybody just a little bit more about me. I am a fourth-generation New Mexico native. My great-grandparents moved to New Mexico to find a better life for their families, and they absolutely have done that. Both of my parents are retired educators in Albuquerque public school systems, and they now also have found their retirement home in Rio Rancho. And like so many young New Mexicans, I planned to leave the state for good when I graduated from college and went to graduate school, but either it was the balloons, or it was the green chili, or the amazing New Mexico sunsets. But I am back here, and I am so glad. I was recruited by a local company to come back and work here, and when I moved back, my husband and I purchased our home in Rio Rancho. In 2020, I was fortunate to have been appointed to the City Council by Mayor Hull, and over these past 14 months, I've gained amazing experience that has prepared me to be ready to continue to lead on day one. I know the power that the city has to make change, and I also understand the needs of the community. I have a proven track record of supporting the things that matter most to the citizens of Rio Rancho and the citizens of our district, like improving the roads, supporting housing that's affordable, supporting public safety, and diversifying our economic base. I also know, and I'm very proud of what we have accomplished. We have seen repairs on our major roads. We have a city where 94% of the citizens are pleased with our fire and ambulance service, and 93% of people feel safe in their neighborhood. Today, you won't hear me tear down the city because I'm with the 90% of Rio Rancho citizens who know that Rio Rancho is a great place to live right now, today. And I have a vision for where we can move the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward?
Jerry, thank you. Thank you to the Chamber for allowing me. Thank you, Carissa, for sitting next to me today. For those of you that don't know me, and I've knocked on 700 doors so far, so a lot of you do know me. If I haven't made it to your door, I will. I am not native to New Mexico. As a matter of fact, I grew up in Texas, and if you ask a lot of people, I still say I'm a transplant from Texas. I moved here with my job back in 2010. Before we moved here, we came sight unseen, never been to Albuquerque, never been to Rio Rancho before. So my wife did what all great wives do. She went online and she did her homework and she did her research, and she said, where is the best place for our kids to go to school? Where is the best place for us to build our home? Where is the best place for us to live? And after exhaustive research, of course, what did you all do? We ended up in Rio Rancho, just like you. We stayed for about 2 years. My company transferred me again, so we left the area 2012, and we went to Denver for 2 years. And I will tell you, for all of you that have ever been out of state, 2 years of shoveling snow, I will never do it again. We had the opportunity back in 2014 to come back into town. When I did so, my mother-in-law unfortunately was sick and we needed to be closer to home. So we came back to the city that we left. And what did we do? We bought a house literally within seeing distance of our old house. That's how much we loved Rio Rancho, and that's how much we wanted to come back to our home. And that's what we've done so far. Since 2014, I've opened a business. I'm a small business owner supporting the community. Love to support you in the City Council as well. I'm doing a lot of things as far as when I'm knocking on doors, but the one thing I hear loud and clear from you is that we need to do something about our roads. The arteries will look great, but the roads in front of your house, the ones with the 2 and 3 inch gaps, that's what we need to fix. And that's what I commit to you, that as your counselor I will do. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak today.
Okay. All right, Edward, you get the first question. So as city councilor, how would you engage the community? And what is your availability to attend meetings between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.?
Great question. I am a small business owner, so I do have the flexibility of being able to meet when I need to be able to meet. I will tell you my clock after 5:30 is completely open with no obligations elsewhere except to the city. I would say this, one of the things, and not necessarily Carissa, the person who was in before her, multiple emails never got returned, and the people that I tried to contact at the city government did not return emails. And the one thing that I'm going to do for you is commit to you, if you send me an email, you call me, I will reply. And I'm committing to that. I will reply within 24 hours. So reach out to me. edwarddunn4rr@gmail.com is my current email address. Send me an email. Let me know what I can do to help you. And I commit to you as your counselor that I will be available. The other thing I plan on doing is having a coffee hour at a local coffee house. We had one at Cafe Bella a couple of weeks ago, so that I can meet with the community and invite you to come and tell me what's going on in your mind. Because the most important thing in this race is you. Thank you.
Thank you. Carissa?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. During my time on the city council, I have first and foremost, have regularly attended in person all of our council meetings, with only the ones where we were virtual by requirement, attended those online, but regular present attendance at the council meetings. And then with availability to our constituents, I have been available, responded to emails, answered phone calls, and I think what the people will hear from me and what they've heard from me as I responded is that I may not always be able to fix every problem immediately right now, but I already know where to go to get the question answered. And for the questions where there's not an easy fix, I let them know the details, I let them know the information, and we look for a solution together. And so that has been what I have done and what I look forward to continuing to do for the citizens of Rio Rancho.
Okay, thank you. All right, Carissa, coming right back to you for the next question is, what would be your approach to work with city councilors to get Rio Rancho to ensure that we move forward over the next 4 years?
The city council sits in such a unique seat in the city. All of us, and no matter who is sitting in what seat after this election, everybody will be different. Everybody will have a different approach to things. Everybody will have a different framework that they're working from. And the first thing that we have to do is we have to get to know each other. We have to build relationships so that we can work together effectively. Because once we've completed the races and once we are sitting in the seats, the most important thing is not our individual agendas and it's not our individual plan, but the most important thing is what's best for the city of Rio Rancho. And to do that, we have to work together as a council. Now, we may not always agree, and sometimes we have to find a solution that may not appease everybody, but we can work together to achieve that. I believe that I've been able to do that in my time on the council already, and I would continue to do that as councilor.
Okay. Edward, the same question.
But I think it's very important that as a council, we do need to work together, and that we do need to find compromise, and we need to find common grounds. We've got one goal, and that is to take care of the residents of Rio Rancho. But I will tell you, the one thing that as I watch the City Hall meetings, and you can go back and watch them, they're all recorded, they're very good, it is kind of disturbing that every vote, it seems like, not every literally, but it seems like every vote is all the same vote. Where's the individuality? Where's the, it's okay to have a little bit of disagreement. It's okay not to agree on everything, because that proves that you do have compromises going on. And it almost seems like with our current council, nothing against them, they're all really nice people and they all have really good hearts with great intentions, but they all tend to agree on everything. And I think that's not always a good thing. So what the council has to do is listen to you, the voters, and do what's best for you, not what's best for one person on the council that's kind of colluding everyone else together.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Edward, next question's coming right back to you. So over the next 4 years, what do you anticipate is going to be the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, I believe, is already here. right? I think the biggest challenge that we have currently in the city, and that when you look forward, it's not a short-term solution, is the fact that our roads are very much deteriorating. And I know that there are all sorts of different programs going on, the bond fund, and there's the neighborhood improvement project and those kinds of things. The problem is that the current plan doesn't have a lot of merit. When we talk about the fact that the current plan says each counselor gets 1.25 miles per year, so less than 10 miles a year to fill in cracks and holes, we've got over 400 miles of roads in Rio Rancho. If we only do 10 miles a year, it's going to take us 40 years to get to every road. That's a problem in the plan. It's a problem we have to address now. If we want more residents to move into Rio Rancho, if we want businesses to move into Rio Rancho, if we want our economy to grow, we have got to fix our roads and put them in a position where people want to drive on them.
Okay, thank you. Carissa.
Thanks for the question. I think our biggest challenge that we have to address as we move over through the next 4 years is really based in growing our economic development. Because growing our economic development and growing our economy will increase our overall GRT, our gross revenue tax, which will fund all of the projects that we need. But we cannot fund the projects without the money. The money would come in as we expand our economic development opportunities, as we're able to recruit back some of the tax leakage that goes down the hill into Albuquerque and the money is spent. What we saw during the pandemic when so many businesses were closed was that the GRT in Rio Rancho actually increased. There was more dollars spent in Rio Rancho because people were staying closer to home. So we know that there's money in Rio Rancho. We know that there are consumers in Rio Rancho that will spend the money. When we can keep the GRT, the resources, the revenue in our city, we can then apply it to fund everything else that we need. I believe that's our biggest challenge that we have solutions for in the next 4 years.
Okay, thank you. All right, specifically looking at your district, Carissa, what are you going to be your infrastructure priorities for that district? We've heard roads already, but is there more than just roads?
Well, I wish maybe there were more questions on the table. I wish there were more challenges. But I do think our district is interesting because it's really composed of 3 major segments. We have our Cabazon area, we have Unit 16, and then we have our Corrales Heights area. And so I think some of the needs in the district are very different. In Corrales, there's a significant need for more programming and activities in our community centers to be able to support our youth, because it's one of the youngest, vibrant areas with children that are looking for things to do. In Unit 16, roads is absolutely number 1, but not just roads, the utilities and the infrastructure underneath the roads. And as we get into Corrales Heights, there is a need for increased services for our seniors and increased services for the retired community. So we have an interesting community with different needs, but I'm aware of those needs and ready to address them.
Okay, thank you. Edward?
So, Chris brought up some great points. There are different needs, and breaking it down into the different sections is very beneficial. I think they could all agree that there could be improvements in the roads, and we've already gone over that multiple times. As far as programming with the kids, that's something that's absolutely must-have, right? I think we made a great step when we put the park above right there in the Cabazon area, but that same type of mentality needs to be extricated into other places as well. You also think about the fact that we do have an aging community. And what are we doing for our aging community? And I do sit on the board of directors on another company, another organization that is working to bring more programming for our senior citizens, and that's something that we have to have, something to get them involved and keep them going inside the city that's so vibrant. But I will tell you, the number 1 thing has got to still be the roads. All the other things are great, but if you can't get your car down the road to get there, that's a problem. Quickly, I should take a little bit of time on the last question. We'll take a little extra time. One of the customers in my district, when I was knocking her door, said, I moved here from San Francisco. And in San Francisco, we have speed bumps to slow down the traffic. I just thought those big potholes and stripes were kind of the opposite to slow down the traffic. That's a problem. People shouldn't think that in our city.
Okay. All right, so Edward, next question comes right back to you, and that is looking at infrastructure. You guys both have mentioned roads a whole lot. Rio Rancho as a whole has the lowest per capita revenue of any city, county, or town or village in the entire state of New Mexico. That being said, is there an opportunity to increase taxes for road services and infrastructure to accomplish some of these things you're talking about?
Great. So is there an opportunity? Sure. I don't think anyone wants to sit up here and say, hey, we want to raise your taxes. I don't think that's the solution. I think the better solution is to say, why are roads in the condition? It was mentioned earlier, some of the roads that were previously built were not that great. So let's stop talking about that and say, what can we do to fix it? Well, first is, why do we have the lowest GRT? It's because the majority of Rio Ranchoans go down the hill to Albuquerque to shop or go across the 550 to Bernalillo to shop, and that's the problem. Is we've got to bring our businesses, we got to bring the economics of our city to our city. There's no reason why those jobs and those businesses can't be here, and if they're here, then the GRT stays here. And then we have the funds to fix the roads and those kinds of things. But the first thing we got to do is talk about how do we get those businesses that aren't in Rio Rancho to Rio Rancho. There's no reason that our citizens should be having to drive across the river to go to work. They should be driving across the road to go to work. We need to bring the businesses here, and that's what I'll do on the city council.
Okay, Carissa, same question.
Thank you. So, I think when you talk about increasing taxes, we don't want to increase taxes for individuals, but the goal is to increase the base of taxes that are received in Rio Rancho that can be used for Rio Rancho. And so that's where, as I said in my previous question, looking at how can we diversify our economic base to be able to keep the money that is in Rio Rancho for Rio Rancho residents, that we are not having that tax leakage. And as I said previously, what we saw between 2018 and 2020 was an almost 45% increase in the GRT that stayed in Rio Rancho. Now, it was under the worst of circumstances, but we know that when Rio Rancho residents see the value in the community, when we're promoting businesses like was done during the Southern Boulevard reconstruction to remind businesses to buy in Rio Rancho and shop in Rio Rancho, the money is spent in this community and we are able to do the things we need to do.
Very good, thank you. All right, Carissa, coming right back to you with the next question is, so Rio Rancho is growing at a much faster pace than Albuquerque, but jobs have not kept pace. Over the past 10 years, Rio Rancho only has one job per 8 residents. In 2010 census, we were 1 job per 6 residents. And this is working adults. That being said, how would you accomplish increasing jobs here in our community?
Thank you. So when we look at economic development, we have to look at really a 3-tiered approach. We look at recruitment of new companies into Rio Rancho. We look at retention and expansion of the companies that are currently here in Rio Rancho. And then we look at growing and supporting our small businesses. And so when we look at those 3, that's how we can continue to grow. When we think about recruiting companies to Rio Rancho, we've been able to, on the City Council, support the recruitment of NTX Bio to Rio Rancho, a company that could have left the state of New Mexico. But through enactment of a LEDA grant, we were able to keep them in New Mexico and they're growing jobs. The same thing with Intel, we can keep doing that. We need to continue to expand the businesses that we have here by creating infrastructure around everything that exists to continue to support those and supporting our small businesses. They are the engine and the drivers of our economy, so we need to continue to support and uplift them so that they can continue to grow our economy, and that's how we find our economic diversification and increase.
Okay, thank you. Edward, same question.
Well, we kind of mentioned it in the last question. We talk about bringing new business. It is a multi-tiered approach. We've got to bring more business into Rio Rancho. We've got to re-engage with things like the Sandoval Economic Alliance, which we didn't participate in 2021, whether that's right or wrong. It's not for me to judge. I wasn't on the board to make that decision. But we need to re-engage with our partners out there that say, what can we do to bring some of these things back into our city, and what can we do to drive? Intel's a great company for the city, right? The city was basically founded because of Intel. But we can't be a one-horse show, right? We've got to have other people to come in, and that is why we've got to work with other things and look at things like different programs to reach out to our partners and reach out to the city of Albuquerque. Look at Scottsdale, Arizona. Look at other places that have done successfully brought businesses in, and ask ourselves, how do we do those same things? It's not enough just to say, well, we got Intel. That's not enough. It's got to be something more, bringing in new businesses and new things into the company. Small businesses are very important. I run a small business. It's the engine that runs all places. So how do we get more small businesses to invest right here in Rio Rancho? And that's by reaching out to them.
All right, thank you. So Edward, coming back right to you on the next question, and that's public-private partnerships. So throughout the state of New Mexico and including Rio Rancho, public-private partnerships have been key to growth throughout many successful communities. How would you encourage a culture of driving economic growth and job growth using public-private partnerships?
Public-private partnerships are great things, right? Because it does a couple things. It brings private industry into a city government or into a government and says, how do we come together to produce something for the citizens of the area? So it can be really great. I would also say we got to be cautious on it, right? Because what we're basically doing is we're trading off the initial funding for a project by levying our tax dollars later. So there's got to be some control on it, some balance to it. But you can leverage it to bring in the industry, specifically if we target the right industries that we're going after and saying this is what we want to bring in and this is what we're going to do to get them. There's some great pieces that come from that. We just have to be mindful of what the cost is at the back end. There's an old saying, if you build it, they will come kind of a situation, right? If you build it, they will come. Well, that's kind of what Rio Rancho has to do. We have to get the land and plots ready for the business so that they can come in. And sometimes what we're missing in these PPPs is we're saying, hey, we want you to put in the infrastructure and all these kind of things, but sometimes we have to take that first step ourselves. And that's what we're missing currently.
Thank you. Carissa?
So I think what we've seen in Rio Rancho already are some great examples of public-private partnerships that we can learn from. We can learn from what worked and what didn't work so well so that we can move forward. I think one of the best examples of a public-private partnership is what's happening right adjacent and part of our district in the Unser Gateway. The Unser Gateway is an example of public-private partnerships where we have the city, developers, and the school system working together to create the infrastructure that is necessary to support the future of Rio Rancho. And so when we look at how well that worked and how that is moving into Los Diamantes, into the business park, and the schools that are going right around that area, that leads right into our district and all of the development that is going to continue there. So that is a beautiful example of how public-private partnerships can work, have worked in Rio Rancho, have worked recently, and we can make them continue to work in the future to benefit our residents across districts.
Okay, thank you. Chris, the next question coming back to you is our crime rate here in Rio Rancho is much lower than Albuquerque. Albuquerque's listed as one of the highest crime cities in the nation. That being said, what would you do to ensure that we focus in on public safety and keep the crime rate low?
Absolutely. On our recent citizen survey, 94% of Rio Rancho citizens said that they found Rio Rancho to be a safe place to live, and I would agree with them on that. Our public safety officers, our EMT, our fire, have been and continue to be absolutely amazing. And so what we have to do first is we have to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to recruit and retain the best out there, as well as provide the resources necessary to train. The other thing that we need to do is make sure that they have all of the resources that they need to be successful. And so we have supported, and I have supported, additional positions, additional opportunities for training, growth, as well as evaluating incentives and bonuses. I think the other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we are supporting mental health and their entire lives, because while they are out serving us, we need to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to serve them and keep them safe while they're keeping us safe.
Perfect, thank you. Let's see, Edward, next question.
Same question.
Same question, I'm sorry.
Gotcha. It's all right. Well, as you guys probably know by now, the latest census showed that we had an 18% growth in population from 2010 to 2020. What's made us safe is the fact that we have fully funded and supported our police departments and our fire stations. What we have to do to continue to be successful is to continue funding them. And I believe that we should not just fund them, we should give them additional money. The same person that responds to the El Paso Walmart shooter shouldn't be the same person that responds to the car accident, shouldn't be the same person that responds to the hostage negotiation, shouldn't be the same person that responds to the person that's going to jump. We've got to give enough funding as resources to those departments so that they can specialize in those things and make sure that the person that's responding is the best trained person that they can be for that situation. One of the things that I think is absolutely needed is we've got to have an additional fire department. As I go out and talk to people in the community, they're telling me that, hey, there are times sometimes that I talked to a fireman, he said, hey, there's times that all 6 of our ambulances are busy at the same time, so please don't give us a call for ambulance at that time.
Edward, the next question is, March 1st, we have the election rounding the corner. One of the items on the ballot is the $10 million permanent fund. In your opinion, what is your thoughts on the creation of this fund?
It's a great question. I'm not sure there's enough information available to the public for me to make a formed opinion. But in my career, I sit across the table from people every day, and I help them with financial questions in their retirement, help them plan for the future. One of the things we look at, the first thing we look at is time horizon. What is the length of time between now and the time that they're going to need those funds? Right? And then we correctly place a plan in front of them that meets all those requirements. When we talk about a permanent fund, that we're going to take 1/2 of the investments, that means we're going to have a conservative fund, right? So 3 to 4% return on a $10 million investment is $300,000 a year. So we're going to return $150,000 into the city this year. I think with so many things going with our growing economics and growing our city and with the roads that we need to do, there's a lot of other things that we can do with that fund than simply put it in a savings account that we're not going to use. The returns are too low to justify it with a 7% inflation last year.
Okay, thank you. Carissa, same question.
Thank you. So I think one of the things with the permanent fund is that right now in our city, we are able to maintain over a 25% reserve of our budget. And so we are operating right now very conservatively, even with the pandemic. And so what we've seen in the city is as the gross receipts tax has come in at higher than projected levels, we now have an increased level of reserves in the city, and we are already operating above those reserves, operating below those reserves, so that we have 25% or at least, if not more, reserves in the budget. With the permanent fund, what that could give us the opportunity to do is to help to make sure that we stay solvent if inflation starts to increase and things begin to change. Whether or not I agree with it or not, it's up to the voters to decide. If the voters do approve the permanent fund, what I will do is immediately request that there's a citizens oversight committee that will help to oversee and ensure what happens with the monies returned from the fund so that they can be applied back to the city.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're at the Chamber office today, and one of the things that's near and dear to us is shopping local. We've talked a little bit about that today. So one of the things that was mentioned is in Sandoval County, we were the leading county in Texas, Colorado, Utah, Arizona. We led the way during the pandemic on increasing shopping local. In addition to that, small business revenue saw a nice increase. That being said, what will you do to promote shopping local in the community? And is there anything you can do to help the city promote buying local whenever possible?
The first thing to do to promote shopping local is to shop local, right? Is to, every time I have the opportunity personally to be out to enjoy the wonderful restaurants and shops and florists, and I'm gonna say it again, restaurants, because I think Rio Rancho has an amazing growing restaurant scene. That's the first thing that we can do. The first thing that I could do. I think the other thing is to engage people to join me at these events and to promote the wonderful activities that happen with the Rio Rancho Chamber and the other things that are happening. We have to build some more energy around our city. And beyond that, we have to start claiming the name of some of these places. As I mentioned before, the Unser Gateway. We've got to start naming these places so that when people think just like they think about other areas, uptown, downtown, Nob Hill, that they think about Rio Rancho and they think about it with energy, and that's how we get people to shop.
Thank you. Edward?
Well, I think the unintended consequence, which is actually seen as a positive, is that with the pandemic, people were almost forced to shop local, right? A lot of people went to Uber Eats and Grubhub, and they were getting their food brought in from the closer restaurants, and they were trying things that they otherwise wouldn't have tried. And I think that's a great thing. I think we've got to capitalize on the momentum that was created and continue to do that with the signs that say shop local, and with the maybe an insert when you're getting your food from Uber Eats that says, hey, thank you for shopping local. Those kinds of things are what we've got to do to continue people thinking about those. It is not enough that people think when I'm looking for dinner, I go down the hill. That's not the mentality they should have. It should be when I'm going to dinner, I'm going to over here to eat because this is where I go. And the unfortunate thing is, one of the things that I mentioned in the Observer is that we need clusters of restaurants, a place where multiple restaurants can be in one place. If one's busy, that's fine. I'll go to the next one. And that's what we need to do in order to bring in those customers from going down the hill, from going across the street to the Bernalillo, is to bring those clusters together and help support our local businesses.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's all the questions. So we'll go right on into closing. So Edward, you're closing first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you guys for sitting here and listening to this. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. When we talk about what's at stake on March 1st, it's what's at stake is the future of Rio Rancho. We're putting in people in a position for the next 4 years that says, hey, this is what I'd like to get accomplished. The one thing I can commit to you is that I will be available. I will respond to emails. I will respond to calls. I will respond because I think that's very important. Is in order to be a counselor on the district, in order to be the mayor, in order to be anyone that is supporting the face of the city, we've got to be listening to the city, right? We can't be listening to the other entities that are out there. We've got to listen to the people in the city. And the people are saying, hey Ed, I need to know who my counselor is. I need to know that if I call you, you'll respond. I need to know that if I've got a problem, you'll hear me out and you'll do something about it. We didn't bring it up today, but there are a lot of people that are really upset about something that's going on in the Unser Gateway with that gas station. The point is that our communities want to be heard when they have disagreements. We may not always be able to give them the right answer. We may not be able to always make everyone happy, but what we can always do is listen and be there for our communities. I got into this race because I care about my neighbors and I care about my family. And the Rio Rancho that I moved into in 2010, I want to be able to leave to my kids in 2040 when I'm no longer on this planet. And on our current trajectory, I want us to make sure that we're not just saying that we're the city of vision, we really are the city of vision. And that's what we've lost out on sometimes, is we lose that vision of what tomorrow should look like. What it should look like is clean streets, great communities, great first responders, roads that we can grab on without tearing up our tires, and friends that we can call our city councilors. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to work for you.
Thank you. Marissa, closing?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jerry, for hosting, and thank you, Ed, for the time today. I think it's been wonderful and enlightening for so many of us to really just think about what does our city need. And first, I want to thank everybody who's going to watch this, because there's really not enough people who are engaged in this process. Because of all of the other decisions that are made and all of the other decision-making spaces, what happens in City Hall is the thing that's going to impact you first. What happens in City Hall are the decisions that are going to impact you when you walk out of your door. Those are the decisions around your roads, your police, the park, the libraries, and the shops. It's about the place that you work, if you can find a wonderful place in our city to work. These decisions and your intention on being here in this virtual space with us and learning about the issues, learning about where we stand, you have already made the first best decision that you can make regarding this race. And that's being informed, and that's participating. So I thank you. I think what you've heard tonight is that I have been doing this work. I've been doing it for the past year, and I look forward to continuing to do it. This work is not easy, and it takes time to learn how to engage in the process and how to work in the process. I've been doing it, and I'm ready to keep doing it. I've also only been in this position for a year, so I don't have a 4-year incumbency to rely on. And so what I look forward to doing is to continuing to reach out to the community, to continuing to reach out and respond to my neighbors so that we can make Rio Rancho the city of vision. Not just the city of today, which I think is pretty great, but the city of tomorrow for our kids and our grandkids to make it even better. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so early voting is already out there. March 1st is election day. Get your voice heard, be out there, get out there and vote. We have excellent candidates running this go-around, plus we have some bond issues, and then we also have the permanent fund, a couple of questions involved with that as well. So get out and vote. Look forward to March 1st, and thank you both for being here today. It's been a great conversation. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.